An image like no other, inspiring decades of research and debate. The Shroud of Turin, that's a piece of history, and it has an ongoing puzzle for scientists.
3 independent genetics laboratories reportedly analyzed DNA samples taken from the bloodstains on the Shroud of Turin. After completing their sequencing work, something unusual happened. All 3 labs suddenly stopped talking about their findings. There were no press conferences, no detailed public explanations, and no scientific debates in the media. Just silence. What made the situation even more puzzling was what researchers allegedly discovered in the genetic material itself. According to those familiar with the analysis, the DNA extracted from the cloth does not clearly match any modern human population known today. Some of the genetic markers appear incredibly ancient, linked to lineages that may have disappeared from the human family tree thousands of years ago. But the most startling detail was the condition of the DNA. Normally, when genetic material ages over centuries or millennia, it slowly degrades and breaks apart in predictable ways. The DNA fragments become worn down by time, bacteria, and environmental exposure. This was different. Instead of the gradual decay scientists expect to see in ancient samples, the chromosomes appeared violently fragmented, almost as if the genetic structure had been shattered all at once. Researchers described it not as simple deterioration, but as a kind of cellular explosion, where the DNA inside the cells seemed to break apart simultaneously. To some scientists, the pattern looked less like the normal aging of biological material and more like the result of a sudden, extremely intense burst of energy affecting every cell at the same moment. That unexplained detail is exactly what keeps the mystery of the Shroud of Turin alive today, a relic that continues to puzzle historians, geneticists, and researchers around the world. Each laboratory repeated the analysis more than once. At first, the scientists assumed there had to be a technical error. Maybe their sequencing machines were malfunctioning. Maybe the equipment was miscalibrated. But after running the tests again and again, the results stayed the same. The machines were working perfectly. The strange data was coming directly from the DNA itself. But the mystery surrounding the Shroud of Turin didn't begin in a modern genetics laboratory. To understand where this story really starts, you have to go back to 1978, inside a sealed chamber of a medieval cathedral. The room smelled of aged stone and lingering incense, and inside it stood a group of around 40 of the world's leading scientific experts. They included physicists, chemists, spectroscopists, and even a photographer trained by NASA. Their mission was simple and very direct. Examine the famous cloth and prove it was a forgery. The team gathered around a 14-foot strip of ancient linen, believed by many to be the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. They were not there to confirm a miracle. Their goal was the opposite: find the paint, identify the technique, expose the artist, and finally put the centuries-old legend to rest. For more than 120 hours, they studied every inch of the fabric, using the best technology available at the time: microscopes, chemical analysis, spectral imaging. Every scientific method they had was used to search for evidence of pigment, brushstrokes, or any sign that the image had been artificially created. But they didn't find any. No paint, no dye, no brushstrokes. The image on the cloth existed, yet the usual signs of artistic creation simply weren't there. What began as an attempt to debunk a religious relic slowly turned into something that felt more like a scientific investigation of an unsolved case. Not a ritual, not a prayer gathering, but a careful forensic examination. And the deeper researchers looked, the stranger the evidence seemed to become. Some scientists who later studied biological traces from the cloth suggested that whoever bled onto it didn't simply die in an ordinary way. The microscopic evidence hinted at damage that appeared to affect the body at the cellular level, as if an intense event had disrupted the biological structure itself. Even today, many researchers say the Shroud of Turin is far from a closed chapter of history. Instead, it remains an open scientific puzzle,